Hello and welcome back. This is Jennifer McGuire and I'm glad you're here. So lately I have been getting some requests to do an interactive card video. I haven't done one in a while, so I thought I would share with you a creative way to make a pop-up card. So all of these cards, when you open them up, have a fun pop-up feature. The best part about this technique is you don't need any special dies for it, and you could use any hand-cut or die-cut images you already have. I have 3 birthday cards for you today, all with the pop-up feature. So I'm hoping that by watching all of these, you can figure out how to make one on your own with what you have. Okay, so I thought it would be best to first show you how the card works. This is our first card, and when you open it up, this cake stands up. The cool thing about this is the cake is two-sided, so it looks really cool standing in there, and it doesn't take too long at all to do. Most of the products that I used on this card are from the new kit from Hero Arts. This is the My Monthly Hero kit for February, and this one I know they have limited quantities and it's going to sell out quick. Sometimes people get upset when it sells out fast, so I'm just giving you a little warning. The nice thing about this kit is the cost of it is half the value, so it's a really good value. Has a large 6x8 stamp set, embellishments, coordinating dies, and that large cake die, which we're going to use to create the pop-up feature in my first example. Let's go ahead and create the front of our card. I'm using my MISTI stamping tool and a few of the images that are from that My Monthly Hero kit that I just showed you. I've put them in there to stamp on the front of a piece of white cardstock. I'm using Brutus Monroe, not your mama's cardstock, but you could use any white cardstock. I use my anti-static powder tool. I'm stamping with VersaMark Ink, and then I'll add white embossing powder to it and heat set it. The reason I used a high quality white cardstock is I'm going to do ink blending on this, and I find that the better the quality cardstock, the better it blends. Okay, so I'm using my Pink and Main Ergonomic blending brush. This is a great brush for inking up backgrounds very quickly and evenly. I'm using Hero Arts Shadow Inks, these are dye inks, to apply color. Now towards the center area there, I used Butter Bar, and around it here I'm using Fresh Peach, and then around that I will use Ultra Pink. So I wanted to make sure that I kind of had color radiating out of the center. Once I covered it with as much ink as I wanted, I can take a dry cloth and wipe away the excess ink. So anywhere I had that white heat embossed image, it will resist the ink we put on top, leaving that white image behind. Next, I'm using the Hero Arts Festive Balloon Stamp Set, and I use this one a few times throughout this video. I really like the balloons and little decorations, and also those stamp sentiments that fit inside of the balloon or fit nicely inside of a little die-cut circle, as I'm doing here. Now I stamped one of the sentiments on white cardstock and die cut a circle, and then I matted it with some holographic cardstock. You can see the scrap over there to the side. Then I put some craft foam on the back of that for dimension, and I'm using my Tailored Expressions circle masking stencil to make sure I get it centered. The masking stencil has guidelines that I line up with my card. Then I know if I center my circle die cut in the center of the masking window, that'll be perfectly centered, and I don't have to measure or eyeball it. I'll link to a video with more about these masking stencils. Okay, now from the cake die that's included in the kit, I die cut from a bunch of different cardstocks. This is the holographic cardstock, and I'll cut from that the little cake stand, and I'll do 2 of each. I also use Pink and Main gold cardstock for the flames on the candles. And then I use the Tonic Sugar Crystal Glitter cardstock for the pieces that I'll use for icing. Then I die cut a few from white cardstock, and that's what you see me inking up here, so that I could quickly color the cake to match the colors that I used on the front of my card. Since I inked that piece, I thought I'd use the same inks to decorate the cake to tie everything together. I'm going to assemble 2 cakes here, and they'll be glued back to back. So that's why you see me doing 2 of each step. So I use the pink and the peach ink to ink up my die cuts. I have 2 more die cuts that I made the candles the Butter Bar yellow. And now we're going to glue everything together. So we have the holographic paper for the cake stand. Then I am going to cut from that sugar glitter cardstock. It's a white glitter cardstock. I'm going to cut out the icing pieces and glue that on top of our die cuts. And then I will also glue the yellow candles and the gold glitter cardstock frames. So this takes a few minutes to assemble, but I feel like this is the focal point of the card. The inside is. You could also just color it with Copic markers if you prefer. After I have my 2 cakes assembled exactly the same, it's time to create the pop-up feature, and this is super easy. All you need to do is score some small cardstock pieces. So I have some white cardstock here, and I'm going to score 1/4 of an inch from the edge. So I'm going to do a score line right here using my Teflon bone folder, 1/4 inch from the edge. It could be a little more or less, it's up to you. And then I will fold right along that score line. Now from this, I'm going to cut out a few strips, and I just want the strips to be narrower than the cake stand. So these are about 1/4 of an inch wide. It really doesn't matter how long they are. And what I end up with is 2 little legs. You can see they look like legs with feet on the bottom. And these are going to be glued on the back of our cake stands. Okay, so you see our little legs here with the little feet? That's the ticket. That's the key to make this pop-up feature work. So on the back of my die cuts, I'm going to glue the legs. So I'm going to put some liquid adhesive on here. This is Gina K Connect. You could use strong double-sided tape if you prefer. And I'm going to glue that so the foot is pointing up at me and lines up with the bottom of our die cut, the bottom of the cake stand. So you can see that little foot is sticking out the back. Okay, now I'm going to do the exact same thing with the other die cut. Putting glue on the back of the leg, lining it up on the back of the die cut so the toes are facing up towards the camera, and the bottom of the foot lines up with the bottom of our die cut. This could be any die cut shape, but you do want to have die cuts that are mirror images. This one happens to be pretty much symmetrical, so they can glue back to back and match up nicely. And I'll talk about other options later in this video. Okay, now I'm going to put strong adhesive at the top of these die cuts. Notice how I'm only doing it at the top, not the bottom. We only want to connect the top of the die cuts so that when they pop up inside, the top stays together. And you'll see why in a moment. Now you'll see the bottom comes apart a little bit and the toes are pointing in towards each other. So you can see that there. Okay, so now it's time to glue this into the crease of our note card. This is a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch white note card with the top fold. I'm going to put liquid adhesive on the soles of my feet. So I'm just putting liquid adhesive on this little flap sticking out, and then I'll put it on the other flap sticking out, so the soles of the feet. I then am going to take those 2 little feet and make the toes stick out. See how the toes are sticking out there? And I'm going to put them into the crease of our note card. So the adhesive is exposed on both of the flaps. And I'll press it right into the crease of the note card, centering it up. And then I'm going to close my card and hold it there while it dries. We want that to hold really well. So you want to use a strong liquid adhesive or double-sided tape here. So I'm going to hold that while it dries. Doesn't take too long. Next, we can glue the front of our card panel onto the front of our card. So I'm just putting adhesive on the back and lining it up. And I did trim this panel down to be 4 by 5 1/4 so that some of the white shows around the edge. So here's the finished card. I did add some Lucy's Cards iridescent gemstones to the front for a little bit of sparkle, but you can see the fun little bit of holographic cardstock peeking out from the circle. When you open up the card, check out the cake that pops up. I also stamped another sentiment right by the cake, and there's room to write a personal message below it. The nice thing about this is the cake looks pretty on both sides. When it pops up, you have this really wonderful pop-up feature that's a nice surprise, and it's not very bulky at all. This birthday cake happened to be the perfect die cut for this because I could glue 2 back to back, but you could use a butterfly die cut, a heart, a circle, a square, whatever you want, and I have more options to share with you today. Okay, let's move on to our second example, another birthday card. I'm in need of birthday cards. And so I have these balloons on the front with a stamped background. But this one, when you open it up, it has a unicorn cake that pops up. So this was a stamped image that I cut out and I added with the pop-up feature. And this is a little unicorn face on the front of the cake, and then you see the back of the cake on the other side. Okay, so let's go ahead and create this guy here. I started with using the Hero Arts Decorate a Cake stamp set. This is such a clever stamp set. It has all the things you can add to the cake, including flowers, candles. You can turn it into a unicorn cake or skip that part. It's totally up to you. I decided to make 2 cakes, one with the unicorn face, one without, and they'll get glued back to back. Now I did a bunch of stamping because Lila was going to do some coloring too. I stamped on my Brutus Monroe Not Your Mama's cardstock with my Gina K Obsidian Amalgam Black ink. And then I like to heat set it. The reason I did this is I colored these with Copic markers. So I used a Copic marker friendly ink and cardstock. After doing my coloring, I used scissors just to cut the images out because they're pretty basic shapes, but you could use the coordinating dies if you want. So this is the front of the cake, and I'm gluing a little unicorn horn on the top. And then I'll add another one on the other side so you can see it from the back too. I also have the ears that I'll glue on the front and the back. I probably should have made the ears solid on the back, but I didn't think about it at the time, and I'm hoping that the little girl I'm giving this card to doesn't catch that. But here you can see how I'm gluing on my little ears on the front cake and then also on the other side too. I also added a few little stamped and cut out flowers to the front of the cake and the back of the cake. I just thought that would be a fun way to add some more color. You could also make a wedding cake out of this if you wanted to. I think it's fun that this decorated cake stamp set can be used for birthday, unicorn, wedding, whatever you want. I even used a Tonic Aqua Shimmer pen to add some sparkle here and there. Now it's time to do our pop-up feature. I have that same piece before that has the Scor line 1/4 inch from the edge. And I'm cutting 2 more strips out of this. These legs could be wider because my cake is wider. But I did cut them a little bit shorter since my cake is shorter. So on the back of the leg, I put some strong adhesive, and I have the little foot sticking out of it. I'll again put adhesive on the back of the leg, put it on the back of the die cut, and we have our little feet pointing inwards when we glue these back to back. So I'm putting strong adhesive towards the top only of the die cuts and matching them up. Thankfully, again, this is another die cut or a stamped image that you can put back to back and they line up nicely. So this is symmetrical and perfect for this technique. Now on the front of the card, I stamped some balloons and colored them with markers and added a sentiment. For the background, I used Gina K metallic silver cardstock and white heat embossed the birthday background from the kit. I'm now figuring out where I want my balloons to be on the front. And then I'm going to put a little pencil mark at the bottom of my big red balloon here. So I'm putting a little pencil mark there. So I know where to stamp the strings onto the background. So I'm stamping with black ink right on top of this. And you can see how I'm lining up the string with that dot. The string image is a little too long, so I have it stamping above the dot, but the balloon will cover that up. After I go ahead and add my pink balloon up there, I can go ahead and do the same for the orange and stamp a string to hang below that. Once I'm done, I'll also do it for the yellow balloon too. If you want to save time, you could just use a black Sharpie to draw string lines, but I didn't trust myself to make them nicely, so I went ahead and used the stamp that's included in the stamp set. I used some foam tape to add the balloons to line up with the strings, and then I added that to our white note card that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I also added some gemstones. Now it's time to put glue on the bottom of our feet to go inside of the pop-up feature. So I'm putting a good amount of strong liquid adhesive, and then I will put those feet right into the crease of our note card, making sure that it's centered and straight. I'll then close the note card on it and hold it for a few seconds. Okay, so here is the finished card. I did also add a few pretty pink Posh graphite gemstones. I love these. They're like a dark platinum color. It's so gorgeous. And a nice accent on the front of this card. When you open it up, I did add another sentiment, and check it out. We have a unicorn cake that stands up when you open up the card. So you can see how you can use stamped images that you hand cut and use those for a pop-up feature. I thought this one was really fun to assemble because I got to do a little bit of coloring, some really fun images that you could piece together and mix and match. Okay, my third and final card shows how you can use a stamped image that's not symmetrical, like this doggy here, for a pop-up feature on the inside. Let's start by looking at the completed card. Here you can see this little dog birthday party little scene on the front. Then when you open it up, there's another dog with a balloon that pops up. Now this one is done just a little bit differently than the others since it's not symmetrical, but it works out great. This features the adorable new Hero Arts Birthday Potty stamp set. This is fun because there are a lot of playful sentiments that you can use, and I was able to use 2 different great sentiments, one on the front and one on the inside. Let's start by creating the front of our card. This is Lawn Fawn Guava cardstock, one of my favorite colors. And I'm using Pale Tomato Hero Arts ink to stamp this little birthday image just along the left and right border of this panel. The center will be covered up, and I wanted to use this cute image from the Hero Arts kit, and I thought this was a fun way to stretch it and get a new look. So I'm just stamping it repeatedly along the left and the right. You see that I'm stamping it multiple times with this ink. This ink wasn't dark enough to really show up well on this cardstock, so I made the ink darker by multiple stamping. It's a great way to get more out of your inks. So I glued that onto the front of a white note card that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And then I have my little birthday party scene already assembled here. I stamped a sentiment. I also stamped the little doggy, balloon, and cake, colored them with Copic markers, and then used the coordinating dies to cut them out. If you look closely, you can see behind that white cardstock, there's a holographic cardstock mat, and that really catches the light nicely and adds some fun to the card. Next, we can create the little pop-up feature inside of the card. This is a little bit different than the others. I went ahead and stamped, colored, and die cut the balloon and dog image for the inside. I also used that same coordinating die for the dog and the balloon and die cut from white cardstock with no stamping on it. I've glued the balloon to the back of the dog's mouth. Now it's time to create our little feet. This time I'm going to do 4 legs and feet. The reason I'm doing 4 is we have the 2 sets of paws that I really want to put the support underneath. So I have a piece of white cardstock with a score line 1/4 inch from the edge, and I'm going to cut 4 legs from this. 2 of the legs are about 1/4 inch wide, and then 2 of the legs are about 1/8 inch wide, because the different paws on the image are different sizes. You'll see in a moment. So I cut my little legs shorter since this is a short image, putting strong liquid adhesive on the back of the legs, and I'll glue that on the back of our die cut. And this fits behind the back paws of the dog, and I line up the foot of my little pop-up feature with the bottom of the feet of the dog. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the same on our plain white die cut. So onto the front of the white die cut, this time I'm doing it on the front, I'm gluing the back of the leg, making sure that the bottom of the feet of my little pop-up feature lines up with the bottom of the feet of the dog. Okay, so now we're going to do the same on the front paws, using our skinnier legs that we created here. Cut it shorter, put adhesive on the back of the leg, and then I glue that onto the back of the dog's paws. So now we have 2 little feet on the bottom of him. Then I'll do the same on the front of the plain white die cut. So now you can see how I have 4 feet to give it nice support so it pops up nicely. Now I can go ahead and glue this plain white die cut on the back of the balloon. And we can go ahead and glue the 2 die cuts together. Remember to only put adhesive towards the top of the die cuts. In this case, the back of our pop-up feature will just be plain white. There won't be any stamping on there, but it still works out great. And I'll explain another option in a moment. Okay, so now we have our note card here. I'm going to open it up. We're going to put some strong adhesive on the bottom of all of our feet. So we have this side, the feet, I'm kind of spreading out the glue there, and on this side, on the bottom of the feet. I will then put those feet into the crease of the note card, making sure that it's centered nicely and straight. Then I close the note card and I hold it there while it dries. Okay, so here is a look at the completed card. You can see there's not too much bulk to this. On the front, we have our little doggy scene. I love that holographic cardstock peeking out. That holographic cardstock really catches your eye very quickly, so only having a little bit showing is a good thing, and it kind of brings your eye to the center. For the nose and the eye and the dog, I used a black glaze pen to make it stand out and give it a little bit of shine. And I used a shimmer pen on the balloons. I stamped another sentiment that says "It's time to potty" on the inside, and there you can see the pop-up feature. In this case, the back of the pop-up is white because I didn't have a mirror image of the dog and the balloon. However, if you want to use those stamps to create mirror images for the back side so that it shows the same on the front and the back, I will link here to a video that shows you how to do mirror images and mirror die cutting. I chose not to do it to save time, but you definitely could do that technique if you check out that video. So you can do this pop-up feature using any die cuts you have. They don't have to be symmetrical. Just use a plain die cut on the other side. Okay, before we go, I wanted to show you one more new Hero Art stamp set that's birthday related, and I thought that little tier of cupcakes would be perfect for a pop-up feature, but I ran out of time. So I just wanted to show you this and show you that that would be another great pop-up feature card, but I encourage you to also look at what you have. I bet you've got lots of things that would work great for this. All you need to do is create those little pop-up feet and put it in the crease of your card. I hope you'll give this a try. It really is fun and easy to do. There are a couple other videos for you there in the middle to check out. Thanks for spending this time with me today, and I hope you have a wonderful week.